The first time Leon Hart saw her, she was doing a remarkably good impression of a statue. If statues came with dusty armor plating, a dead neural interface socket, and a glare that could turn to milk sour. He'd wandered into the ruined Asalari outpost, expecting scrap metal, maybe a few data cores, and if the scavenger gods were kind, something worth smuggling past command. Instead, he found her sitting in a corner, completely still, like someone had hit pause 2 decades ago and forgotten to hit play again. Whoa, he muttered, lowering his pulse rifle. Either you're the galaxy's creepiest mannequin, or you've got some serious commitment to awkward silences. Her long ears twitched. Barely. Leon blinked. Okay, not a mannequin. You hear me in there? I'm not here to shoot you. Unless you're a vending machine in disguise, those things keep stealing my credits. No answer. He took a cautious step closer. She didn't flinch. Her armor looked ceremonial, ancient even, covered in the fine ash that coated everything on this half-dead moon. The neural socket at the base of her skull sparked once, feebly, then went dark again. He crouched beside her, trying not to make any sudden moves. Look, I know this is probably a sacred site or whatever, but technically it's been flagged as abandoned, which means I'm legally allowed to loot it. I promise I won't take anything sacred, or sharp, or glowing, especially not if it hisses. Her gaze flicked to him, just once, slow, calculating. Definitely alive. Leon grinned. That's progress. Can you talk? Blink once for yes, twice for sarcasm. Her voice, when it came, was like stone cracking. You are loud. He leaned back on his heels, pleased. You're not wrong, but I've been alone on this rock for 3 days, and my only conversation was with a talking ration bar. You're already a better listener. She looked at him, really looked this time, and something ancient passed behind her eyes. Why are you here? Officially, to retrieve a defunct memory core for military archiving. Unofficially? He shrugged. I needed a break from my squad's endless debates about which cafeteria soup is secretly poison. Spoiler, it's all of them. She said nothing. He scratched the back of his neck, then stood. You hungry? I've got freeze-dried noodles that taste like regret and maybe chicken. Don't move. Wait, right, never mind. Sit tight. By the time he returned, she hadn't budged. He offered the food packet with a small flourish. Gourmet, vintage 2 days ago, best before last week. She ignored it. You're playing hard to feed, he said, settling down beside her again. I'm Leon, by the way. Sergeant Leon Hart. You don't have to tell me your name, but if you don't, I'm going to call you Stonyface. And you really don't want that to stick. There was the faintest upward twitch of her lips, or maybe it was a trick of the light. He stayed the night, nestled in the ruins beside her, like a squat armored raccoon. His portable shelter glitched every hour, blasting him with re-entry alarms or demanding he update the firmware with a 48-character password. He gave up, threw a thermal blanket over both of them, and declared it a bonding exercise. Morning came in dull streaks through the shattered dome. She hadn't slept. He had, badly. Leon stretched, bones popping. So, plan of the day, I fix my shelter before it tries to kill me again, and you tell me your favorite type of noodle. She didn't respond. He sighed and stood. Fine. We'll do it your way. Over the next 2 days, he scavenged tech from the surrounding wreckage. Old stabilizers, cracked consoles, forgotten Ysalari medtech. He tinkered between stories. She listened in silence as he described Earth's weather tantrums, his grandmother's obsession with potatoes, and the time he accidentally seduced an ambassador's wife while impersonating a janitor. That last one got a cough of laughter from her, sharp and sudden like thunder on a still lake. You're not awful, she said at last. He beamed. High praise. Next we'll work on compliments. She surprised him that evening by asking, Why did you really stay? He tilted his head. You look like you'd been alone too long, and someone once told me, if you find a ghost who still talks back, you owe them dinner. I am not a ghost. Nope. You're a very sarcastic alien in a very broken suit. Her eyes narrowed. Do not mock the armor. Wouldn't dream of it, but I am going to fix your interface. Her hand clamped down on his wrist, alarmingly strong for someone motionless for 20 years. Don't? He met her gaze without flinching. Why not? It won't work. You tried everything? I was Ysalari High Guard. They brought me the best. It failed. He gently pulled his hand free. Maybe they weren't stubborn enough, or stupid enough. Lucky for you, I'm both. She watched him warily as he began rewiring a spinal adapter using a toothbrush, 2 fuses, and a slightly melted spoon. Is that standard human tech? No, he said. This is what we call improvisation, also known as, I really hope this doesn't explode. The device sparked, then hummed faintly. Her fingers twitched. Just barely. Leon blinked. Did you see that? You moved. No. Yes, you did. I have excellent eyesight. Enhanced, military grade. I once spotted a bug in my cereal from 20 meters. That is not impressive. You've clearly never had space cereal. He looked at her again, more seriously now. Listen, I'm not promising anything. I'm just saying, if you do want to walk again, maybe it doesn't have to be a lost cause. Her voice was quiet. It hurt to hope. He nodded. It always does. They sat in silence for a while, the buzz of the interface pulsing like a heartbeat. He finally said, You know, you never told me your name. She hesitated, then spoke, voice softer than before. Kalira, he smiled. Nice to meet you, Kalira. Let's teach those legs to wake up, one sarcastic insult at a time. The interface groaned as Leon tightened the last coupling, a chorus of sparks crackling up his arm like the outpost's way of saying, Thanks, now leave. He yelped and jerked back, shaking his fingers. Okay, either I just gave myself a tiny lightning massage, or your ancient hardware is possessed. Kalira didn't move, but her eyes slid toward him. You're not qualified. Probably not. But you should have seen my medical school rejection letter. Very flattering. Said I was too charming to be a surgeon. Do all humans survive this long with so little skill? Leon grinned. You're welcome, by the way. That twitch in your leg last night? That wasn't a muscle spasm. That was science. Primitive science. Hey, that primitive science was made with the holy trinity of desperation. A bootlace, repurposed drone wiring, and a half-chewed mint strip. I didn't ask for mint. Exactly, that's why it worked. Kalira closed her eyes as if trying to vanish him from existence through sheer mental will. It hadn't worked yet, much to her disappointment. She hadn't wanted help. Definitely hadn't wanted a mouthy human who whistled off-key and narrated his every repair like he was starring in a soap opera. But something inside her had shifted, slightly, subtly, like tectonic plates brushing fingertips after a millennia-long standoff. Leon shuffled over with a makeshift brace in his hands, humming a tune that might have once been part of a military cadence before being tragically assaulted by creativity. He knelt beside her, holding up the brace like it was a trophy. This, he said proudly, is the future of mobility. Human ingenuity meets Usalari engineering. I call it the Walkinator 3000. She stared. He cleared his throat. Too much? Fine. I'll downgrade it to Walkinator 2000. I hate it. Perfect. That means you'll want to beat it, which means effort, which means progress. Kalira reluctantly allowed him to fit the brace around her leg. It was crude, bulky, a Frankenstein's monster of human salvage and his salary exocomponents. It beeped softly as it synced with the interface on her spine. She winced. Not from pain. She'd forgotten what real pain felt like, but from the warmth of it. A pulse, a flicker of life in muscles that had long since accepted death. Her right leg twitched again. Leon's face lit up. That's 2. At this rate, you'll be river dancing by Tuesday. Explain river dancing. It's like combat footwork, but more confusing and with extra knee flare. Kalira blinked slowly. Humans are strange. Flatter me more, I might cry. The next 3 days became a ritual. Leon dragged in parts, rewired circuits, and babbled endlessly while Kalira endured stretches, electrical stimulation, and an endless stream of questions like, what's your favorite fruit? And don't say plasma root. That stuff smells like engine coolant. She surprised herself by answering. Cereal berries. Really? Those purple ones that stain your mouth like murder juice? Yes, I respect that. He massaged her legs gently, clinically, fingers tracing lines long faded from use. So, you ever thought about standing up just to get away from me? Yes, daily. Good. Harness that rage. Kalira found herself anticipating his arrival each morning, not because of the therapy, though the progress was real, undeniable, but because Leon refused to treat her like she was fragile, or sacred, or broken. He teased her, argued with her, made her laugh so unexpectedly one morning she nearly dislodged her shoulder brace. When her left foot flexed for the first time, Leon dropped his wrench with a clatter and stared at her like she'd just rewritten the laws of physics. You're showing off now. I am winning. Oh, it's like that now. All right, let's up the stakes. If you can stand, I'll let you name my next drone. Pity prize? Motivational milestone. Also, I've been calling it Sir Buzz a lot, and it's starting to take it seriously. Progress was slow, imperfect, and filled with expletives, most from Kalira, occasionally from Leon, when the brace fried his wrist hairs again. The outpost, once tomb silent, echoed now with laughter, argument, and the occasional crash when a repurposed medbot tried to deliver tea and instead detonated the cup warmer. On the seventh day, Kalira leaned forward under her own power. Not far, not fast, but enough that her balance shifted. Leon dropped his ration bar mid-bite. Whoa, whoa, you moved! I've moved before. No, that was a lean. That was a stand adjacent. That was pre-vertical. She looked down at her legs, alien and unfamiliar after so long. They trembled under their own weight, unsupported. She pressed her palms to the ground and exhaled. Leon knelt beside her. Want a hand? I've had hands before, he smirked. Okay, want this hand? She glanced at him, then slowly took it. With a grunt, a pulse from the brace, and a furious argument between gravity and will, she rose. Not fully, not gracefully, but she rose. Leon's face split into a ridiculous grin. You're up. You're actually up. I'm vertical. You're glorious. I'm going to fall. You're our miracle, giraffe. I hate that. Perfect. I'll put it on a t-shirt. Her legs gave out and she collapsed. He caught her. She scowled. Do not tell the bots. Too late. Sir Buzz-a-Lot has already tweeted it to Central Command. She laughed. Short, clipped, unwilling. But it escaped anyway. Her breath caught after, as if surprised to find joy living in the same lungs as pain. Leon eased her back down. You did good. That was real. That was yours. She nodded, not in gratitude, in recognition. You're going to do it again tomorrow, he said. Yes. And the day after? Yes. And then we're racing. She raised an eyebrow. You'll lose. He grinned. That's the spirit. Outside, the stars shifted in their eternal silence, unaware that somewhere deep in the wreckage of a forgotten war, a woman who hadn't walked in 20 years was learning how to rise again. One bad joke, one flickering spark, and one human pain in the neck at a time. Kalira took her first full step before sunrise. The outpost corridor was lit only by the weak bluish glow of backup panels, casting long shadows across the rusted floor and highlighting every scuff her brace made against it. Her breath caught as the weight shifted from brace to bone. No collapsing, no sudden malfunction. Just pressure, just friction, just her. Leon was snoring on a pile of insulation tubing, like a man who had lost a bet to gravity. She didn't wake him. Not yet. She wanted this one moment to herself, like a secret between her and the universe, before he woke up and ruined it by calling her Captain Thunderthighs or something equally inane. She took another step, then another. Her gait was off, clunky, awkward, but every micro-movement resonated like a declaration. I am not finished. She made it to the far end of the hallway, touched the ancient comms panel, and exhaled. The metal was cold. Her fingers trembled not from weakness, but from disbelief. Leon snorted behind her. Either I'm dreaming or the outpost's haunted by a very determined kangaroo. Kalira turned. He blinked at her. You're standing. I'm walking. You're strutting. That's at least 3 steps into diva territory. She lifted her chin, deadpan. Next, I conquer stairs. His expression melted into something soft, reverent, like his sarcasm had been knocked sideways. Kalira, I'm proud of you. She tilted her head. That sounds dangerously sincere. Don't get used to it. I'll insult your posture in 5 seconds. 3, she countered. They stared at each other, then broke into laughter. His cracked like dry leaves. Hers was more uncertain, rusty from disuse, but growing stronger by the second. Later that day, the beacon lit up. Leon was wrist-deep in a defunct atmosphere processor when the warning blinked red on his old helmet display. He stumbled out of the maintenance bay, grease smudged on his face like war paint. We've got company. Kalira narrowed her eyes. Friendly. He tapped the console. Transponder says coalition. Probably a recon crew. She stiffened. They'll scan. Probably, but you're not the same file they left behind 20 years ago. I was a war symbol. He crossed his arms. Now you're just a war survivor. Slightly more sarcastic. I don't want to be a symbol again. Then don't. Be, I don't know. Be Kalira. The woman who tells drones to shut up. The woman who called me a fungus the first day we met. The woman who just walked 20 meters without falling over. She folded her arms. You're terrible at speeches. Thanks, I practiced in front of broken mirrors. The coalition ship landed 2 hours later. Kalira stood without braces, unassisted. Her legs were shaking, her spine ached, but she stood. Leon brushed dust off his jacket and looked like he was preparing for a very disappointing family reunion. The ship hissed as it opened. 3 figures stepped out, silver-armored, visors down. One of them scanned the area. The other 2 fanned out with efficient detachment. The first one spoke through a voice filter. Identify yourself, Leon waved. Hi, local nuisance. Kalira stepped forward, shoulders square. Kalira of Isalar. The officers paused. One lowered her visor. The moment stretched. We thought you were dead. I was not. You were paralyzed. I'm not. The officer's brow creased. How? Leon stepped up beside her, beaming. Advanced human technology, very advanced, involving chewing gum, defunct toaster coils, and the occasional miracle. Kalira shot him a look. And sarcasm. Mostly sarcasm. The officer blinked slowly. Command will want to see you. I'm not going back, Kalira said flatly. Not for ceremonies. Not for interviews. Not to inspire the next generation of martyrs. Leon chimed in. She's on her post-trauma sabbatical. Doctor's orders. That doctor being me, which is questionable, but I have great handwriting. The officer glanced at her scanner. This outpost condition is barely livable. You'll need repairs. Then fix the outpost, Kalira said. Not me. There was a pause. The officer, perhaps sensing the fire behind Kalira's words, or perhaps the bristling quiet of a woman who had already been remade too many times, nodded. I'll transmit a supply drop. You won't be bothered. Leon elbowed Kalira lightly. That's as close to we like you as military officers get. I'll start crying immediately. The ship lifted off 2 hours later, leaving behind a freshly packed crate of supplies, a solar array, and several puzzled notes scribbled by the officers about unauthorized medical engineering. Leon framed one of them, called it art. The outpost changed. They expanded the living quarters, fixed the roof. The water recycler stopped wheezing every 3rd hour like it had bronchitis. Kalira's steps became steady, strong. She began exercising in the courtyard every morning while Leon shouted motivational phrases like, kick gravity's smug face, from inside his coffee bunker. Sometimes they argued, loudly, once over the ethics of mayonnaise, another time over whether Isolari poetry was better than Terran's stand-up comedy. She let him win that one, barely. But mostly, they lived. Kalira learned to laugh at her own stiffness. Leon learned to shut up long enough to listen. When Kalira rebuilt her own mobility rig from scratch, sleeker, more elegant than anything he'd ever made, he clapped like a proud idiot. One night, under the weight of distant nebulae, Kalira looked up and whispered, I never thought I'd rise again. Leon, beside her with a cooling tea mug, murmured, You didn't just rise, you soared. She smiled, a real one. No bitterness, no resignation. I had help. I'm excellent help, frequently underpaid. You're not paid. Tragedy of my career. The stars kept spinning above them, the galaxy still bruised but healing, and in the shadow of a forgotten outpost, on a planet no longer mapped, an alien woman who once thought herself broken stood tall. Not because someone fixed her, but because someone believed she wasn't ruined to begin with.